Hi, welcome to Mental Floss Video. Today we're going to talk about language, everything from Bhutanese to Na'vi, and I'm not kidding about that. Let's get started.
A polyglot is someone who has mastered multiple languages, and one famous polyglot is Ziad Feza, who allegedly knows over 50 languages. He was born in 1954 in Monrovia, Liberia. According to one source, he learned almost all of those languages while he was a teenager, picking up 3 to 4 every 3 months. He has since written books about language in, get this, various languages, because if you got it, flaunt it. During the 1990s, Feza's name appeared in the Guinness Book of World Records for the number of languages he knew. That is no longer the case. Back then, he apparently knew somewhere between 54 and 56. The number lately, some sources claim, is up to 59. Just to give you a sense of what that means, according to The Economist, an English-speaking adult knows the meaning of about 30,000 words. But to be fluent in a foreign language, someone might know 1/10 of that. That would give Ziad a vocabulary of like 177,000 total words. That's a lot. If you're getting skeptical, your instincts are totally correct. Many people started to find holes in Feza's supposed knowledge over the years. Like the blogger Ardent Agnostic noticed that on the back of one of Feza's books, he listed Zonka and Bhutanese as languages he knows. But those are synonyms, so he's counting 1 as 2 there. But he really got busted on the Chilean show Viva el Lunes in 1997. People asked him questions in multiple languages he was supposed to know, including Finnish, Chinese, and Greek. He answered some incorrectly, others got answers in the wrong language. He contends that the TV show tricked him and edited his answers, but no matter what, it was a disaster. You might be wondering, how many languages can one person actually speak? Well, it's complicated. There's not really a good test for this kind of thing, except for putting a person on a Chilean talk show. And there are many historical legends of polyglots that now seem unrealistic. One of the more modern examples, though, is Dr. Kenneth Hale, who passed away in 2001. According to his New York Times obituary, he'd mastered over 50 languages. What am I doing with my life?
Certain grammar and vocabulary rules can just feel impossible to remember, so we're going to do a quick refresher for you, but it's important to note here that language is constantly changing, especially informal language, so a lot of these are formal rules that sometimes fade away, but we're going to talk about that too. Alright, let's start with who and whom. You should use who when you're talking about the subject of a sentence, like in the question, who did this? Who is clearly the subject, and whom is the object of a verb or a preposition. So you'd say, for whom do I vote, or whom do I vote for, if you want to end a sentence with a preposition, which by the way, I think is fine. Also with quantifiers like all of or many of, those should come before whom, not who. If you want to check to make sure you're doing this right, you should be able to substitute who with he and whom with him. Or her. But this is a perfect example of a pretty formal rule that doesn't always apply. Like, we don't often say whom out loud, you're more likely to hear who or even that. But for formal writing, you may want to know the difference, if only because it's nice to know the rules when breaking them. Moving on, lay or lie. I still can't do lay or lie. Okay, they're both present tense. You use lay when a subject is putting down an object, like I, the subject, lay down my Suicide Squad Blu-ray. Object. It just isn't as good on DVD, you miss some of the details of Harley Quinn's makeup. Lie is when the subject is the thing in the horizontal position, like I just watched Suicide Squad and now I need to lie down to try to process all of the metaphorical resonances. The past tense of lay is laid. The past tense of lie, unhelpfully, is lay. Then there are the past participles, which are respectively laid and lain. Really, it's just cruel. Okay, let's move on to whether versus if. This is another one that doesn't apply often in casual language, but formally you want to use if when you have a conditional sentence. So that would be something like, watch Suicide Squad if you want to see the best movie of 2014. What's that? It came out in 2016? Years are so long now! You should use whether when you're trying to state that there are two options, like Kylie didn't know whether Kendall or Courtney would call, but she knew one of them would call because they always do. There are two clear possibilities there. Compare that to Kylie didn't know if Kendall or Courtney would call. That sentence leaves 3 options open. Kendall will call, Courtney will call, or neither will call, which seems very unlikely. Whether is also often used after prepositions, before infinitive verbs, and to start clauses. The definition of irony has been annoying everyone for years, so let's talk about it. There are a few different types of irony, but the one that probably gives us the most trouble is situational irony. That's when someone's intended result gets a reversal. Like, a famous example of this is at the end of The Wizard of Oz. After a long journey, they all learned that they had what they were seeking all along. Like, Dorothy Dorothy was already able to get home. That is the formal meaning, so there are a lot of people who say that irony is not a coincidence or a paradox, and that Alanis Morissette song is full of things that aren't ironic, which is the only irony in it. But according to Merriam-Webster, people have been using the term imprecisely for almost 100 years at least, so using it to mean coincidence isn't necessarily wrong, it's just a more modern usage. That and which is a very controversial one, but the AP Style Guide says to use that for clauses that are essential to the meaning of a sentence, and which if the clause is adding more information but isn't essential. Here's how I do it. If I think to myself, I would like there to be a comma there, I use which, and otherwise I use that. An example, Kristen Stewart received an MTV Movie Award, comma, which she dropped. The which clause is adding information, but it isn't changing the meaning, whereas all of the MTV Movie Awards that have been dropped are dented wouldn't be true without the that have been dropped part. But that rule isn't super strict either. Like, I would argue that you can also say Kristen Stewart received an MTV Movie Award that she dropped if you don't feel like using a comma. I will, however, defer on this issue to Merriam-Webster, which claims that for non-restrictive clauses you should definitely use which, but for restrictive ones you can make a stylistic choice and use either which or that.
As that previous list showed you, language is constantly changing, including words. So, what is the route a word needs to take in order to get into the dictionary? After it's coined, people start to use the word in conversation as well as writing. Usage spreads from there. Lexicographers are the people paying attention to that proliferation. They're the ones who write and edit dictionaries, so a Merriam-Webster lexicographer will notice words in popular websites, books, journals, and even comic strips. And they're not just looking for new words, they're also looking for new spellings and meanings of older words. Oxford English Dictionaries have over 250 specialists who do similar research. Their reading program of recruited readers has been around since 1857. My, how has language changed since then? But things are probably a little easier now. Lexicographers will typically put words into a searchable database alongside the context of how it's being used as well as the source. But eventually these huge databases need to get narrowed down into a dictionary-length book. That's when some more specific criteria comes in. The 3 criteria that Merriam-Webster cites are frequent use, widespread use, and meaningful use. Someone called a definer makes that decision, which is then looked over by more high-ranking teammates. But after that, the word is in. Get me a definer. I got some words I can add to the dictionary. Oxford English used to wait 2 to 3 years before putting it in a print dictionary to make sure a word and its meaning were sustainable. Nowadays, words and meanings can become really important and well-known even quicker than that.
Let's do a quick list of some little-known terms for language-related phenomena. An acrolect is a specific type of dialect. It's the most prestigious version of a language, or the closest you can get to speaking it in the language's standard. When every letter of an alphabet fits into one sentence or phrase, that's a pangram, or holoalphabetic sentence. Pangram came from Greek words meaning all and letter. A lipogram is usually a longer phrase, and it's one in which the writer has intentionally left out one or more letters. Ghost words appear in the dictionary, but they haven't actually been used or established. Often this is because the people writing the dictionary made a mistake at some point, and then it kept getting republished. And crutch words are ones like actually, basically, and like. They're filler words or phrases that we use for emphasis or to give ourselves a little break to figure out the rest of the sentence. Everyone has a favorite. You use a pidgin when you're trying to communicate with someone who doesn't speak the same language as you. It's usually a simple amalgamation of 2 languages. Merriam-Webster cites an example from National Geographic. Many cats and their human companions seem to develop a pidgin language in order to communicate better. Morphology is a field of study in linguistics. It looks at how words are formed, primarily focused on things like inflection and language structure. There's also morphology and biology, but that's different. Another subject in linguistics is phonology, which is all about how speech and sound are organized in language. And contronyms are words that can mean their exact opposite. Left can mean you're gone, or you're the only one remaining.
Now knowing all of the complicated facets of the English language, maybe you want to create your own. That's what James Cameron enlisted Dr. Paul Frommer to do, leading up to the filming of Avatar. Yeah, we're talking about Na'vi. Hey, listen, I just want you to have a game plan in case Mr. Cameron approaches you to invent a language for his next film. You're welcome. Dr. Frommer has a PhD in linguistics and was a professor at University of Southern California. James Cameron wanted him to design an entire language for the characters in his film. Cameron had already created about 30 words, which Frommer said had kind of a Polynesian vibe. From there, Frommer needed to decide on rules for new sounds and phrases in Na'vi. He came up with 1,000 words in the 4 years he worked on the film's language, up to 2009. According to Frommer, there are 3 ways to come up with new vocabulary words. 1, make them up. 2, take them from other languages, which is uncommon in Na'vi. Or 3, combine parts already in the language. The Na'vi word for computer is the words for metallic and brain combined, for instance. A couple other distinguishing features of Na'vi: no voiced stops, which means no B, D, or hard G. Also, the ejectives, K, P, and T, are each followed by an X. To make that sound, you have to basically produce a big breath. And of course, because the Na'vi have 4 fingers per hand, their number system is base 8 rather than base 10 like ours. I know it is a surprising amount of work for a film that used papyrus as its subtitle font. As for the future of Na'vi, Frommer has said there's a translation of Hamlet into Klingon, so if Na'vi ever achieved anything close to that, I'd be absolutely delighted. There are people who are translating the Bible into Na'vi, so who knows?
Thanks for watching Mental Floss video, which is made with the help of all of these nice people. Please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Scatterbrained videos, and don't forget to be awesome.